everyone. We're back. It's been an hour. Right now, both of the molds are 238 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, I didn't put a fan on them. Ooh, I got distracted doing other things. That's trouble. So the tools are a little hotter than they normally would be. And it's not the end of the world that they're a bit warm. It's not going to harm the process at all. Um, wow, I really should do something about this crazy camera. How do we get it to, oh, there we go. Like, this thing's crazy. I have to put the camera so far away, and that looks normal now. Wow, that's crazy. Crazy talk. Yeah, so I screwed up a little bit doing that. Oh well. I was actually, when I came to do, like, I quit the cycle, moved the oven back, and I took the temperatures, and they were good. They were like 414 and 413. And then I did not put the fan out like I normally would. Oh well. All right. So they are a bit hotter than normal by about 40 degrees. We're a little bit limited on temperature in one regard, in that the mold going down, that's the MTT, that's the monster mold. That one has two pins in it that you pull out, and they can't be pulled out if the temperature is above 165. Well, let's start pulling a few inserts here and there. Well, just tell this to keep going because I'm not ready. So I use this 19 millimeter hex driver socket, but it's not hardened, so it doesn't do well. Not the end of the world. Now, if you hear that banging, I think something's loose on the spider arm that the longer mold, the HM mold, is on. So yeah, right now everything is just as though we took it out of boiling water. Maybe worse, 'cause it's 240 instead of 212. As the mold cools, it shrinks a little, and it's actually a little bit of a bonus to take these out now because it's less force on the plastic as it's cooling. So it might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise. So normally at this point, when you start taking the inserts out, this begins the process of when you're turning the mold, meaning you've stopped baking and now you're going to take the inserts out, open up the mold, and take the part out. In normal production environments, you have 20 minutes to turn the mold. Not just the mold, all of the molds on the arm. Both sides, both spiders. So the folks in LA who were making these as part of production, they they would have a fleet of workers just all going crazy right now, pulling inserts out of all of the different tools on the arm. Because there would be a handful of molds on each spider because you need to maximize your bakes. Oh yeah, these are pretty rusty. Let a little bit of the air pressure out of the air brake, so then it stopped. This tank has so many inserts that each of their screws, like each family of screws, has a different spot for where they go. It's a bit crazy. When I went live yesterday, I was loading the inserts into the molds. That one's about dead. This DeWalt 90-degree gizmo is a complete lifesaver for doing these molds. It's not rated for impact, but it does. It's pretty bomber. Like I've used it with a large unibit drill and managed to drill a 3/4 inch hole in one of these things. I mean, it broke eventually, but that's fine. It's the perfect angle to work on this tank. This mold is the best opportunity to get burns. I think every burn I've gotten has been from this mold. Make sure these are pulled up. So I've developed techniques to be very deliberate that minimize my exposure to the hot surfaces. I mean, we're like 208 right now in some spots, so pretty freaking roasty. This one's trying to steal my spring. A lot of tool makers don't put a lot of effort into their design of the inserts and their locations. So you end up with a bunch of inserts that are trapped underneath or inside or just awkward. Usually the first thing they work on is just trying to figure out the geometry of where the parting lines will be, where the flanges go, and then they work on the order of the flanges. So like, they lock into each other, so there's an order. That's all the inserts for both tanks. And I undid the hold screw for one pin. Let's undo the hold screw for the other pin, and then we're going to rotate again for a while. We need to get some temperature down. We don't want to quite take the molds out, or the tanks out of the molds just yet. Yay, we're 2 people watching. Hi, 2 people. That's a pretty cool view. All right, that works. This camera is pretty incredible. It's the cheapy 4K camera on Amazon. Maybe we're getting close-ish to where we can demold. This is a vent tube. Ow. So in the end of the vent tube, we put our scrubby to be our vent filter. So it's a sink scrubby, and then it collects powder. So this tank has 2 vent tubes. The other one has 3. This one you have to pull the vent tubes before the tank, because the vent tubes trap the part into the mold that's stuck to the arm. Ow. See, it's still kind of spongy. Once it cools, the shape of the plastic is not going to change ever. That'll be it. That they're cross-linked into that formation. You cannot melt and reflow. You cannot recycle. You can put them through a wood chipper and use the aggregate, or you can burn it and reduce it to carbons and hydrogens. What the heck is loose? Maybe those were loose. So if I rubbed my face against the spider, it probably would burn my face. So I'm very conscientious of where I am, keeping track of my physical being. Let's see how this goes. I'll move my bins around, put the one for the HM closer to the edge. Oh, I hear cracking, and that's actually a great thing. That's the mold releasing from the part. Maybe not. Woo, hot stuff, hot stuff. Ow, 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 ow. $201 and like $185. Hopefully, we're not depending on this piece for a sale. Like the tank in this mold right now is not already sold. So we're just possibly a little premature, and that's okay. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. The only way anything would go wrong is if we take it apart and then plastic stuck, and then we tore the surface. And then, of course, you could separate through far enough that, it would compromise the tank. So the hyper tank is not one on the outside, so you can get away with that. Kind of just prepping everything. The mold's really hot, so I'll put it right there. And it's really heavy, so we're going to do a back brace. Oh, we lost half our viewers. Oh, well. Okay. Oh, a little bit of extra insulation. You'll probably hear the crack. Oh, it's not ready. And it's trying to pull the tank with it. All right, that's fine. Let's put a couple of screws in so it doesn't fall apart, and then we'll just let it go. See if we can find the water gun.
Showing him around a little bit.
Hey.
What is out there?
Oh, crap, we need to make go away.
Things that needed to go bye-bye?
Yeah. So you're live on there, the camera's up there.
Very hot.
Oh. Okay.
We don't have any orders.
None? Oh, can you put up the UPS no sign? Okay, let's check our temperatures. 180, 172. This is a little bit more normal for demoulding. 165, 155, 160. Let's give this a shot again. How's our PSI? We're down to 30, so we need to give it another pump. Oh, that got it. I heard it. I heard it and I felt it. Yeah. Woof. Rusty. All right. Can you see that? Yeah, totally, sort of. Okay. Now the next part is we're going to be putting cooling fixtures on this. Let's go ahead and get this going. So you can't see it, but at my feet is the track for the oven. And I know that I'm safe if I'm on this side of that track. So that's a great, hey, don't go there. Make that flat. Now we're going to use these cooling fixtures. They're going to help hold the screws where they belong as the tank cools. So the locations of these holes are different than the ones in the tool. These are 2% shrunken. So these holes in this plate are transferred from the OEM part that bolts here on the motorcycle. So this is where we want them to end up. So to help that happen, we put on cooling fixtures. The cooling plates are just chunks of aluminum, and then on the bottom, I machined out a well where the vent tube goes, because the vent tube has a little bit of lift around it typically. Now I'm not necessarily tightening these, I'm just getting them a whole bunch of threads in so they can help hold the inserts where they belong as the plastic cools. I think the timing was great. I think like in general, if you could do things more slowly, that's preferable. I mean, you do want to get the interior of the mold up to, say, 410 without waiting. Let's see if you can see. So that little bit of a pattern you see over here is when it was trying to grab the mold. And that thing's still like 100 lots degrees. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that tank's 185 that I just was touching. Wow, it's so hot. All right, what do we got here? 153, 154. We're good. We can take this one out. Put the knife back where it belongs. Get our table ready to accept the next mold. What are we doing? We need to do the thing to the thing on the thing. Thing. All right, so there's a bolt that goes through here at the back of the tank. That is the mount and the pivot for the tank. So we're going to twist it to break it free of the plastic. That was that snap. That's the snap you want. Now, get rid of these. We use the pry bar and just slide it out. This is the pin that went through, and you can't see nothing. Oh well. So, like where this dark part is where there is not plastic. The rest feeds through and forms a tube in the plastic. The plastic molds to the pin, and then the pin has mold release. Now let's move the Hypers tray far away. We're not using that anymore. We're using the monster tank gizmo. There's another pin we need to get. So I point this at my armpit, and the pin goes along this direction, but it goes from underneath. Because why should it be easy? So I use one hand to guard against the hot metal, and we're 161. We get the tool that fits that pin. So I discovered at some point that one of the easiest way to make pins is just take and turn down grade 8 bolts. All right, doesn't want to let go. Okay, fine. That's fine. Wow. No comments, okay. You're welcome to say whatever. I'll eventually see it. So I'm going to add some water to my sprayer bottle. So we need to get some more calories out. Wifey poo. Yeah.
You're sweaty.
Isn't it? Yes. There's the camera. Look how far away the camera is, and look how big it is on the screen.
Wow.
That thing's crazy.
I have to make a delivery on yours, so here I am.
Do you think you can fill up my cup? Thank you. Yeah, so not only does this have water, it has ice water in it. It was probably a bit of a shock. So I really want that pin to just let go. That's the most fragile part on this tank, is where the pin goes. Oh, and it's 165, so yeah. Get our gloves back on before we burn ourselves. All right, we'll try this one right-handed. Aw, you taking off?
Is that okay?
It won't give it.
Give it, you
Careful,
silly
hot.
mold.
Yeah. That'll be.
See you later.
As soon as I get done and get these out, I'll come home. I love you. Thanks for the water. So now we're just waiting on that part of the tool to cool down enough to give us our pin. You don't really want to force it. If it won't let go, you just got to keep trying until it does. Otherwise, you're going to tear the tube. It's like a straw that is molded up from below to the top under the drain cap, so that if you overfill with gasoline or there's rain, it goes through to the bottom of the tank. The companies that do production, um, this molding machine has 3 arms, and they would rotate the table to change the arms out. So this is the bake position. They take the oven off, and that arm would already have all the tools turned and ready to go. So they'd rotate the table, and then they put the oven over that arm, start its bake, and that leg would be a booth with forced air that's probably from the outside to be colder, and they can additionally turn on water jets to mist. Next time around, we'll stop it and give the pen a try again. Gimme! Alright. It's going to be a troublemaker. Alright, let's see if we can put this back in. So this is normally the screw that helps hold the pin in place. Alright, and I need arm protection so I don't get a burn. Do this. Okay. That totally did it. It sprung free. That extra shock is what it needed. Probably because I messed with it initially. Here's that pin. So on this one, the silvery part is what is not in the plastic, and then the dark and up is what is in the plastic. Don't know why it's discolored backwards, but usually I'm really heavy with mold release on that, so that's probably a bit to do with it. I machined both of these pins from grade 8 bolts. All right, we've got that out finally. So we can work on the lid. Molding is kind of all about the calories and the heat transfer. Exxon says to get 411 or 410 degrees inside the mold for at least a minute. And then that's best practice for cross-linked plastic. Okay, can we do this? We can do this. All right. So we have to get the mold off and not ding the tank underneath it, or it'll ruin the tank. We got one pop. Oh, it's probably free. Put everything into it. And now we have to be sure we don't sweat on the tank. Oh, that looks fantastic. That's just absolutely great. I'm very happy. We're going to do this piece and get a demoulding temperature recorded. I don't do it to the big one so I don't screw anything up. Hold the mold. If you let go, it might fall. Oh, I just heard it crack too. All right, so we've got up to 137. 137, 171, 137, 171, 137, 171, 137, 137, 171. And that's right in line with normal temperatures for demoulding the MTT. This one I hold, and then I just set the tool over there, pull the mold section off. Come back with our blinky. All right, so we put a extension through the mount, gentle pry. Are we forgetting something? Might need mold release again, which sucks because I've got 3 more tanks to make after this one. Normally you don't need to remove this tube. Alright, let's get you pointed up a little. Definitely we're going to put some mold release on the bottom mold. That was way too much effort. Usually that first pop gets it free. Now I'm going to lay out the towel on the table, and then I'll move the table to be closer to y'all. And I guess I'm going to tip you down and see how this goes. See if we stay in focus. All right. Oh, gosh. Wow, that's just bizarre. Okay. All right, you can sort of see me-ish, whatever. All right, fine. This is one of our fuel flange plates. And so, as with the HM, we're going to put it on here to be a cooling fixture to help keep these inserts located where they belong. Additionally, you saw it was a hollowed out ring. It's going to act as a drill guide for when we put the giant hole saw in. Oh, hey, look, there's comments. Oh, thanks. Yes, correct. That's a great question. They ask if, with my current setup, can I only make 2 tanks at a time? That is correct. Um, to change any of the parts on a batch, you have to have those tools mounted to the arm. We have 4 tools, but one of them is so big we cannot have all 4 on at the same time. I have done 3. Um, which side is this? This is the monster side, right? So I've had the monster and the MH51 tanks on one spider, and then I've turned it around and had either the HM tank or the multistrata tank on the other side. The multistrata tank or the multistrata mold is so large, it is as large as we can fit on these spiders in the oven. To go any larger, we would need to use what's called an offset arm so that you have the entirety of that space in the middle. But it's a 6-foot oven. You know, you've only got 3-ish feet. Make sure we don't sweat on this tank. All right, so now the place I'm monkeying with is where the tank pads go. And as the part comes out of the plastic, it's too narrow for the frame. And so I'm going to open it up like 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches, and then it will cool. And then when I undo it, the strain is such that it will retract halfway back and be the perfect size. So I literally tuned the width of this to how wide is it between the frame rails when it's done cooling. And the highly precision instrument of threaded rod, when the threads disappear, we're good. All right. Can you see? So that's, my computer's right here. Oh, we need fan. None of this. Way too hot in here. Oh. Wow. Like, folks complaining about it being hot, that's pretty valid. I mean, I'm not gonna say otherwise. I've had heat exhaustion my whole life. But holy crap, you get here and dealing with 200-degree molds, and it gets roasty. Oh, you're on an angle. Okay, that's interesting. Now you're not. Ish. I don't know. Oh, you can see the keyboard. Ah, cool, yay. Oh gosh. Yep, so that's baking tanks. Folks that do this for a living, you are always turning molds. I don't know how they do it. I mean, obviously you're young and conditioned and not a heat stress victim. But it was always very humbling to go to the plant and see the folks who made our tanks. You know, just walking in and watching, you would start a sweat. It's probably cooler in here now than their factory ever, because they had 4 ovens or 5 running, and they were always running. They didn't do just one bake like I just did. Like my day is I did one bake. Woo, big deal. Sometimes I do 2. I might try to work up the gumption to do 2. Recovering from the COVID, I don't know. If it was winter, I would probably really seriously go for doing 2. But once the sweat's rolling, I'm just a little bit more cautious to take care of myself. No, we're probably not going to do any more tanks. Christopher asked if we were going to do a another tank. I seriously doubt we would do 916s, not that the 6 series super bikes. Honestly, the next tank that would make sense the most would be the new hypers. 2 or 3 times we got real close to folks asking about doing those, and it just fell apart. I mean, it's literally, you need 60 grand minimum to pull off another mold. And I've gone through it with, I was going to OEM tanks for a custom builder. And I guess I could point you at my face a little more. And so the custom builder, I mean, they've got a big name, and they were going to build a cover, and then we'd have a generic shaped tank to go underneath their cover. And it would have been great because then they could adapt their outer cover to a couple different shapes. And so it would be a little bit of a modular tank. You won't give up too much capacity to that. And I think they had the CAD capability. I could guide them through the process of designing the tank, and then we could get it machined. And like, I really thought we were going to pull that off, and it didn't work out. The new hypers, the 4-valve hypers, like say 821939, I don't know. I don't even keep up with them anymore. But the second gen hypers after the air cooled ones, those are going to be, they would be a phenomenal product. But literally, you've got to have that cash up front to just throw at a new tank. And then you've got to have the sales to follow it up. So our first ever tank was the MH51. A Halewood Evolution owner was on I think it was a guest book, and they started a group buy. They got 40, 45 people together. And with that, we were able to do the more primitive type of sand cast mold, and we had that product made, and we got it out, and it was like, holy crap, that was really hard, but it was great, and it was worth it. And then I started the monster mold, and it's kind of a hybrid because it started off, it was going to be cast, but then they lied about polishing cast aluminum. So we fired each other, and like, I lost 15 grand to them, but they did some work. And then the folks who built our HM mold, the hyper motard air cooled mold, they machined us a new top piece. And so that's what you can't see because you're pointing down too far. Well, I guess we'll move you on. Yeah, there we go. So both those mold sections behind my head are billet aluminum. This is the HM, and I did the dimensions on the 3 pieces of the HM mold, and it was a ton of aluminum. There were 2 800-pound blocks and a 400-pound block that then got machined to 1/2-inch thick metal boxes that make the fancy tanks. Ideally, I would like to find somebody to transfer all of this technology to pick up the torch and carry on with making tanks. I could turnkey, make sure that the oven is assembled and they know how to make products safely and reliably and test them. Like I've got it all down, every autistic nuance, nut bolt, science, all of it. Um, then they would have the energy to say, yeah, let's do another tank. Or maybe they're independently wealthy. Um, I've never had the money to just do stuff. Everything has been shoestring budget, small, tiny business. Nothing has been the kind of big, giant thing folks think of. And I'm 51 and I had COVID. And honestly, after transitioning, I've lost a bit of my drive for motorcycles. I'm not going to lie. I love problem solving. I love engineering. I love doing things. And I think I haven't ridden a motorcycle in over a year. And I don't care. I mean, I've got my big crazy truck. I love it. It's dumb. It makes me laugh the way motorcycles make me laugh. But, like I said, I'm old. If I fall off a motorcycle, that could be life altering, maybe not ending. But if I go to the hospital and break something and it takes me a year to recover, like I'm kind of done with life. And I don't want that. I want to stay happy and pretending to be young. So, yeah, it would be awesome to find someone in their 30s and 40s, figure out a way to get them going with the tanks, help them make new tanks, and, talking to dealers, the absolute biggest tanks we would do would be the second gen hypers and the 8 series super bikes. The 8 family super bikes, they really are begging for a track tank. Those folks are rich enough that they can buy a complete spare fuel module and just literally unplug a tank, plug a new one back on, go. And they would do that because the stock tanks are irreplaceable. They're hideously expensive. And same as our MTT 43 tank, depending on how big the initial group was, for me to pull it off, it's going to cost more. So it'd be like $600-700 for a tank. If you do it right and look at the big picture long term, you could bring the price down some and not be quite as needy per unit. Right now we have a pretty good revenue on our tanks, but we kind of need them. That hyper tank, holy crap, we've sold 1,200 maybe more. That thing's just been so good to us. The monster tank's starting to pick up a stride. I wish I had an apprentice because we need to do 3 more bakes for orders right now. So that tank and 3 more are already pre-sold, waiting for me to make them. So tomorrow, meaning Monday, will be get this monster tank prepped and ready to ship. It's an EFI variant, so we have to build the fuel flange. We have 2 EFI tanks in the queue for sale, this one and the one right after it. So I'll build 2 fuel plates at the same time. That'll be live. That'll be live here. I have another channel that's goofy, weird, not directly related to the business. That's where I talk about our rollback truck, being crazy, the engineering, different things. That's a little bit more of a lifestyle channel. Definitely going to be doing a series about rotational molding. I've been in that industry now for 15-ish years. You taking off? Yeah, I'm sort of wrapping up. Okay. I'll be here in a minute. So we've been doing rotational molding for like 15 years. I started as the typical corporate other end of the entire thing, and a truck shows up and tanks fall out of a box. And every time there would be a problem that would irritate my customers, I would dig a little deeper towards this end and learn more about, well, why are we having a problem? What went wrong? So excuse after excuse. I mean, they're explanations, but they're all excuses. And so I got to learn about the different nuances of the industry, like buying a few thousand brass inserts at a time. And, you've got to buy your powder 900 pounds at a time. That's if you're lucky. You can only get that. Um, Lots of folks don't even want to deal with you unless you're buying 3,000 or more pounds. And we just don't have that volume. We're not a normal molder. A normal molder would have this oven churning and burning 2 shifts until the end of time because they make $4 off of each part they mold. Like, they cut their margins really low, but they need to. That's how you get baby booster seats in the restaurants. Those carpet fans, when your house floods and they come and they have that big crazy housing fan, its housing is rotationally molded. They're not cross-linked, so it's running linear is easier than cross-linked. But yeah, like those folks that have these things churning and burning all the time. So we have to make the profit up on the individual tanks, plus we have our forever warranty. That's kind of, unusual, but that's how I believe it needs to be. Way back early on, we were getting into tanks and trying to figure out what to do about warranties. And I saw a picture on the internet of a Clark tank on a Husqvarna. And right in the middle of nowhere, there's just a gas leak. And it was like, I felt such, like, if that was my product, I probably would have puked if I'd seen that. And I know exactly what causes that now. I know who made their mold. I know it's a sand cast mold. I think I know which plant was making their tanks, but that's folks are going to have to start buying their own machines pretty quick. There was a hole in the casting. So there's porosity in the casting, and you have a little bit of an air hole. And what that does is, once you've passed peak temperature, that little spot is cooler than everywhere else, so plastic might not stick there. And then as time goes on, you have an air current, and it puts a pinhole on the tank. And so it could pass immediate inspection because there's a very thin membrane of plastic sealing it. But instead of 200 to 300, 0.2 to 0.3 inches of plastic, you've got thousands. And that could go a year or two before it leaks. And on our Halewood tank, we had 2 of those holes. And I found them, and when we got the tools here, I found those spots. I saw the little dimple with a magnifying glass. Sure enough, start picking at it, and it has a hole. So I drilled through, ran a tap and RTV and sealed those things up, and we haven't had a problem with those since. So it's a pretty fun challenge, and it's great hard work. Just a little bit getting towards being old, so there's going to be changes on that. Anyhow, if you're in a Ducati event and people seem like they're on the brink of wanting to be an entrepreneur, this is something we do. Like, you could put up a 60 by 40 building and run this oven. You need 3-phase, and you could natural gas. You don't need much natural gas, or you could run propane, I guess. It's pretty awesome setup. So anyway, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Keep me company. Get me motivated. So I'll see y'all later. Thanks. Bye.